Hello, welcome to True Crime Talk. I am going to be talking about Stephen Koecher. Stephen was the young man, the 30-year-old man who went missing back in December of 2009. It was December 13th, to be exact, in 2009 from Henderson, Nevada. Stephen worked as a journalist, but he was unemployed at the time of his disappearance, or he was taking or working odd jobs. He was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is the Mormon church. And before he disappeared and before nobody ever saw him again, he was seen on camera. But the camera footage is like the last known whereabouts of Stephen. Nobody has seen him since, or at least if they have not admitted to it. This is a very perplexing case to me. I feel like it's very sad because in this case, I feel strongly that Stephen was a victim of foul play. I don't feel like he walked off on his own to run away somewhere and live another life somewhere. And I don't feel like he harmed himself. I feel like he went to the area he was last seen for a specific purpose, and something ended up happening to him. Something bad happened to him. But this is a flyer from the lostandmissing.com, and it shows pictures of him. And there's his picture, and it says he's missing from Henderson, Nevada on December 13th, 2009. He's a white male. He's 30 years old. It says here he was 5'8". I've seen other websites that say 5'10", and another one that said 5'11", but anyway, and it says he weighed 180 pounds. His strawberry blonde hair and his eye color was blue. It's unknown about tattoos. I don't believe he had any tattoos from what I've seen on other websites. Let's see, scars, piercings, unique marks. A unique scar on his abdomen. Circumstance: Stephen T. Koecher was last seen on a video surveillance camera on December 13th in the Sun City Anthem area of Henderson, Nevada. The camera shows Stephen parking his car and leaving it there. He walked down the sidewalk, crossed the street, and walked out of the frame. He has not been seen or heard from since. And it says if you have any information or see Stephen, please contact St. George Police Department, 435-627-4300, or the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police at 702-229-2907. Then it gives his case number as 09P033271. For people not familiar with this case, I'll go to the Wikipedia website. They do have, sometimes they have accurate information about missing persons. So let's see. Stephen was born November 1st, 1979. He's an American journalist who disappeared under mysterious circumstances in December 2009. So at midday on December 13th, 2009, Koecher parked at the end of a cul-de-sac in the Anthem neighborhood of Henderson, Nevada, and got out of his car, an action recorded on a nearby home security camera. After returning shortly afterwards, Koecher retrieved an unknown object from the vehicle and walked away, with another security camera capturing his reflection in a car window. He has not been seen since, although some activity was recorded on his cell phone over the next 2 days. Koecher's absence from his home, work, and church activities in St. George, Utah, was not noted for several days. Eventually, the Homeowners Association of Anthem contacted his employer and then his parents about the abandoned car, at which time he was reported missing. Police initially had few leads since it appeared he had intended to return to Utah and did not appear to be involved in any criminal activity. The reason for his trip to the Las Vegas area that day has never been determined. His family believes he was looking for work since he could not make the full rent payments on his apartment with the job he had. Searches in the area around where he was last seen yielded no evidence. Further investigation found credit card and cell phone receipts and witness statements showing that in the week prior to his disappearance, Koecher had been driving great distances around Utah and Nevada, including almost 1,100 miles in one day. The purpose of most of these trips is also unknown. However, on one trip, he stopped to visit a former girlfriend's parents and had lunch at their house. So this just gives information about his childhood and background. But December 10th through the 12th, 2009, he went missing on December 13th. So it says on December 10th, he left St. George in the early morning hours and drove his Chevrolet Cavalier 300 miles north on Interstate 15 to Salt Lake City, where he bought some gas with a debit card. He then traveled west on Interstate 80, another 125 miles to West Wendover, Nevada, where he again pulled off the highway to refuel. After that, he continued another 100 miles to the Ruby Valley Ranch of the Neff family. Koecher had previously dated Anne Marie Neff and visited the ranch. He told her parents, who had not been expecting him, that he thought he would stop by to see her. She was not there, but the Neffs served Koecher lunch anyway. He told them he was on his way to visit family in Sacramento, California, but was not certain whether he could continue in that direction due to bad weather. After 2 hours, he left and decided to return to St. George the way he had come, stopping to buy gas again in Salt Lake City and Springville, followed by dinner at a taco time in Neffy. By the time Koecher returned home, he had driven nearly 1,100 miles. During the day, Koecher talked with his mother on the phone. The two discussed his plans for returning to the family's home in Bountiful for Christmas. Koecher's mother said he seemed upbeat about the upcoming holiday and his job prospects despite his financial difficulties. He did not tell her of his road trip that day. The next day, while handing out flyers for his employer, Koecher encountered two young girls who had inadvertently been locked out of their family's apartment. Learning of their plight, he tried to call their mother. When she did not answer, he looked for someone in the neighborhood who could take them in temporarily until someone arrived who could let them in. That same day, Koecher spoke with his ward's bishop, who also described Koecher's mood as positive. The bishop was also trying to help Koecher with his employment issues and had promised he would have a job available by the beginning of 2010. On December 12th, Koecher embarked on another road trip. That morning, his phone pinged a cell tower near Overton, Nevada, at the north end of Lake Mead. In the evening, he bought gas and snacks at a convenience store in Mesquite along I-15, just over the Arizona state line. Why Koecher went to Nevada that day is unknown. 3 hours after his Mesquite purchase, he purchased a baby's bib and cookies believed to be Christmas gifts for his brother and his family, whose names he had drawn in the family's annual Christmas gift exchange, at a Kmart outside St. George. A neighbor of Koecher's recalled seeing him return to his apartment around 10 p.m. A half hour later, he left again. While he was not seen to return later that night, it is possible he could have. The next morning, on December 13th, Webb called Koecher saying he was on his way back from Las Vegas and feared he might not make it to St. George in time for the 11 a.m. service, asking if Koecher could lead it in his absence. Koecher said he too was in the Las Vegas area, 150 miles away, but would return home if needed. Webb told him not to worry and that he would try to get back in time. Another ward member called again later that morning with a similar request, which they dropped when Koecher told them that he was where he was. Neither he nor Webb asked Koecher why he had gone to the Las Vegas area that morning. They found nothing unusual about their conversations with him. And the ward is, of course, his church group, his church family. At 11:54 a.m., a home security camera on Savannah Springs Avenue in Sun City, a retirement community in the Anthem development in southern Henderson, recorded Koecher's car driving into the cul-de-sac, where it was later found. 6 minutes later, a figure dressed in a white shirt and slacks, believed by his family to be Koecher, walked the opposite direction down the sidewalk in front, carrying something in one hand that appeared to be a file folder or portfolio. Shortly afterwards, another security camera in a garage on adjacent Evening Light Street caught his reflection as he walked north. Koecher has not been seen since. Koecher's phone Around 5 p.m. that day. It pinged a tower at the intersection of Arroyo Grande Arroyo Grande Boulevard and American Pacific Drive, more than 10 miles northeast of where he had parked. 2 hours after that, it pinged another tower near Henderson's Whitney Ranch subdivision, 2 miles north of the previous ping. Early the next morning, the phone pinged a tower at the interchange between Interstate 515, US Route 93, and Russell Road, 2 more miles to the north. Koecher's landlord sent a text, and then an hour later, the phone was used to check Koecher's voicemail. The phone remained in that tower's vicinity for the next 2 days, suggesting that its battery died. There has been no activity since. A day after that last ping, Sun City's Homeowners Association took note of the car at the end of the Savannah Springs cul-de-sac and tried to find its owner. Through the windows, they saw one of the flyers Koecher had been distributing for the window washing company in St. George and called the number on it. Eventually, they spoke with the owner, who gave them Koecher's cell phone number, where they left a voicemail. Later, they called his mother. She returned their call on December 17th, and realizing no one else in the family had talked to him in a week and were unable to locate him, reported him missing. Koecher's brother and sister drove to St. George from the Salt Lake City area to start searching. So it wasn't until December 17th that an actual search was started, because that's when they realized he was missing. And then it talks about the theories. Koecher's family believes, given his financial circumstances at the time, that he went to Henderson that morning for a job opportunity. Despite the odd location where he parked his car on the security video, Koecher is neatly dressed and walking purposefully, which his family believes was an indication he was at the scene intentionally. He doesn't look confused or dazed, Stephen's brother Dallin said in 2018. Beyond that, however, there is no evidence to suggest what happened afterwards, nor has any information emerged subsequently which could. We know about as much now as we did the second we realized he was gone, the St. George police detective in charge of the case said in 2018. Koecher's financial difficulties notwithstanding, his family does not believe he chose to voluntarily disappear or take his own life. His mother said that in her last conversation with him on December 10th, he was optimistic about his ability to find another job, and the two were making plans for his Christmas visit home. Koecher's car and its contents also suggest he intended to return to St. George. His father said that the car was in working order and the gas tank was half full when he found it on December 17th, after his wife was contacted by the Sun City's Homeowners Association. In the car were the Christmas presents Stephen had bought for his brother and his family at Kmart the previous day, as well as job applications and the flyers from his employer that had helped the Homeowners Association find his parents. At Koecher's apartment, his clothing and possessions remained where he stored them and had not been disturbed or packed. Koecher's unusual and mostly unexplained travel in the days leading up to his disappearance has led to suppositions that he may have turned to some sort of illicit activity for income. A drug dog was taken to sniff over his car but did not alert on anything. Another vehicle seen on the security camera footage driving up and down the street around the time Koecher parked and walked away from his car was investigated and turned out to be a local real estate agent showing a house in the area. Checks of Koecher's financial history and phone records turned up nothing unusual aside from the trips. A single charge to his credit card since the disappearance was just an automatic charge made to web hosting company GoDaddy, ensuing from his days at Matchbin. One unknown phone number turned out to be the family of the two girls Koecher had been helping on the day before he went to Las Vegas. A search of Koecher's computer and internet browsing history found nothing unusual. Investigators also checked his borrowing history at the St. George Library and found nothing there that suggested any unexplored leads. Koecher kept a diary but recorded no problems in his life at the time of his disappearance beyond his monetary issues and his ongoing bachelorhood, neither of which he believed would last much longer. The family does not consider Koecher's travel to be particularly unusual either. One of his reasons for moving to St. George was to research family history in that area. He often went on tours of cemeteries looking for ancestors' graves. Koecher's mother believes the trips were just his way of keeping himself busy despite his underemployment. While there is no evidence that would suggest Koecher was murdered or kidnapped, neither the St. George nor Henderson police have found any evidence to eliminate that possibility. There's nothing that makes us suspicious, Detective Adam Olmsted of the St. George Police told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, but at the same time, it's a strange situation. So that's some information from Wikipedia. This is a report from 8newsnow.com, and it's titled, "The Last Known Person to See Stephen Koecher Alive in Las Vegas Area Neighborhood Details Odd Conversation Moments Before He Vanished." So I just recently learned about this supposed last conversation or sighting by this neighbor, and this was a story from December 2022. It says that, "I can't forget that the person believed to be among the last to see Stephen Koecher alive said about their conversation with the missing man 13 years later." In 2022, he was missing for 13 years at that time. Koecher, 30, was living in St. George, Utah at the time of his 2009 disappearance. On December 13th, a surveillance camera captured Koecher driving into an Anthem retirement community. Minutes later, Stephen walks past several houses before moving out of view. The timestamp on the video puts Koecher driving down Savannah Springs Avenue at 11:54 a.m. At the strike of noon, one camera catches Koecher walking eastbound on Savannah Springs before turning onto Evening Light Street. Between 11:54 a.m. and noon, Koecher spoke to the neighbor who for the first time is publicly speaking about that conversation. The neighbor requested that 8 News Now investigators conceal their identity as suspects in Koecher's disappearance and presumed death have not been identified nor arrested. And this is the area where he went missing from. This is Savannah Springs Avenue, and right here is Evening Light Street. His car was found here in this cul-de-sac. And this is a residential neighborhood. It's a lot of homes. It's a big area full of homes. But he apparently parked his car down here and then went and walked down Evening Light Street. And then apparently what he said to the neighbor, and I thought this was odd when I read it earlier, "I need money," is what the neighbor remembers Koecher saying to them after they opened the door. As the 8 News Now investigators reported last month, Koecher was 3 months or $1,500 behind in rent at the time of his disappearance, records said. Money from his family meant to help pay the rent went undeposited, records showed. In the days before his disappearance, financial statements put Koecher in St. George, then Washington, Utah, then Mesquite, Overton, and finally the Las Vegas Valley. On the day of his disappearance, records showed Koecher was in the Las Vegas Valley for several hours before ultimately parking his car at the end of Savannah Springs Avenue and walking toward his destination, which is unknown. Now, let me just stop right here. This article isn't very good about all it says that the neighbor heard him say is, "I need money." And that's what the neighbor remembers Koecher saying to them after they opened the door. But it's called "The Last Known Person to See Stephen Koecher Alive in Las Vegas Area Neighborhood Details Odd Conversation Moments Before He Vanished." Well, this article or this report doesn't actually detail much of any conversation from what I read earlier, but maybe I missed it earlier. So let's see. "I didn't see him coming out from the car," the neighbor said. "In those 6 minutes between the time Koecher parked his car and he appears on video walking out of view, he rang the neighbor's doorbell. By the time the neighbor got to the door, Stephen was walking on the other side of the street." So he didn't have some like up close, face to face conversation with him. Apparently, he just saw Stephen across the street, and that's when they had their conversation. And The neighbor says that Stephen said, "I need money." The neighbor said he remembered Koecher saying, "There's no walkway on the other side, but he is walking on the side that doesn't have the walkway. I just shut the door, and that's the last that I saw of him." So I'm not saying this person is lying. I'm just saying that's not really a conversation. That's just somebody coming to your door, and then you don't get to it, I guess, in a timely manner, and the person walks off. Or maybe the person being Steven, maybe he realized he was at the wrong house, or it's like, did the neighbor get mad at him for disturbing him and told him to, leave, to bug off or something? And so that's why Steven said, "I need money." I don't understand. There's no history of mental illness or drug use. So I don't know why he would, that just seems like an odd thing to say to somebody you don't know. When, I'm sure he's not going around door to door just knocking on people's doors trying to collect money. I mean, I just don't understand what this neighbor is saying. And this article doesn't go in depth or explain it any better. Then the article says police found Koecher's car abandoned days after his disappearance. Inside the car, they found gifts for his family, frozen food, a pillow, and a blanket. Items his family and the private investigators reveal Koecher intended to return to his vehicle. And so that would make sense. If somebody has frozen food in the car, you assume that they're going to come back for it. Or a theory I had was was Stephen trying to find a different place to live? Was he going to meet a possible new roommate? Or was he trying to find, like a cheaper place to live, or is going to be a roommate with somebody to save money? Is that what lured him into this neighborhood? And so they said, "Oh yeah, come on, we'll meet and we'll talk. And if everything goes right, you just stay here." And was he immediately just going to start staying there? And that's why he had frozen food. Like they said, bring you some food, put in the refrigerator. Because he had a pillow, a blanket, frozen food, and then, of course, the gifts for his family. But, a lot of people might keep a pillow and a blanket in their vehicle for emergencies. And he was doing a lot of driving, so maybe that's why he had it. But was he planning on sleeping somewhere else or spending the night somewhere else? Not like a hotel, but somewhere where he could have his frozen food and he would need a pillow and a blanket? Or was he possibly going to be staying at a hotel, and that's what the frozen food was for? He's going to get a hotel room where he could have a microwave and prepare his food, and a refrigerator to put it in, or something. So, I mean, I don't know, but that's one of the reasons I think foul play was involved, because I don't understand why he would have frozen food in his car. That means he had every intention of coming back to his car and putting his frozen food somewhere in a refrigerator or eating it at some point. And this is his car that was found in the cul-de-sac. And the homeowners association called his company he worked for, passing out flyers, a car wash company. And then the car wash company got in touch with his parents. And then the parents reported him missing because they knew something was wrong by that time. So there's no record of why Koecher ended up in Anthem. With no new clues into what happened to Koecher, a team from Utah-based Eyes on Private Investigations is working to find answers. The private investigators believe Koecher's conversation with the neighbor may have led to a fatal mistake. "I think he went to the home that he was supposed to go to and actually says, 'Oh, kind of funny. I told the guy and asked him if he wanted some money,'" Wyatt said. "I think that's what resulted in Stephen's disappearance, was that error." And I don't understand what the private investigators are trying to say here either. I get that they think that he could have went to the wrong home, met up with the wrong people or whatever, but the article says, in quotes, "I think he went to the home that he was supposed to go to." So they think he went to the right home, is what I'm getting from this. And then it says, "and actually says, 'Oh, kind of funny. I told the guy and asked him if he wanted some money.'" I don't understand what they're trying to say. That the neighbor who says he said, "I want some money," was like somebody told him to go do that. It was like a setup. I mean, I don't understand exactly what they mean by that. But if anybody's watching, you understand what this article means. I don't understand what that means. So I think he went to the home that he was supposed to go to and actually says, oh, kind of funny. I told the guy and asked him if he wanted some money, Wyatt said. I think that's what resulted in Stephen's disappearance was that error. So they're saying Stephen made an error. Anyway, it's kind of confusing. I don't understand what they're trying to say, but I do understand the fact that they think foul play was involved, because so do I, and that they think one of the reasons could have been that maybe he just accidentally went to the wrong house, or he was lured there to the right house. I don't know, but let's continue reading. It says a police report indicates officers interviewed one neighbor after Koecher's disappearance. Police said the neighbor appeared nervous when contacted and while being questioned about Koecher's disappearance. The person said they did not recognize Koecher, had no friends, and did not trust anyone due to the drug lifestyle that people tend to have. So apparently there's just a lot of odd neighbors in this community. Police have not named that person as a suspect, nor have officers charged him or her with a crime. Another neighbor told police shortly after Koecher's disappearance that another neighbor moved out of the neighborhood on the same day. When police attempted to talk to the resident, they noticed there was no furniture in the house, a report said. The private investigators also obtained photos from a home in the neighborhood taken shortly after Koecher's disappearance, which showed several holes in the walls and other damage. It is the same property the men suspect Stephen was heading in those last moments caught on video. So these private investigators think the home that had the holes in the walls and other damage done to it was where he was heading. We have photos of a room that was destroyed about the same time, Burke said. Is that based on a struggle and a fight and a death? Is it based on a struggle, a fight, and a kidnapping? Is it based on somebody who is just mad? I don't know. Because Koecher disappeared 13 years ago, many of the neighbors who owned homes and who spoke to police in those days and months after Koecher's disappearance are no longer there. One day after video captured what are believed to be Stephen's final moments alive, someone called Koecher's voicemail box from his cell phone, records showed. The cell phone signal then continued to ping off a tower near US 95 and Russell Road for 3 days until the device died. Both St. George Police and Henderson Police are investigating the case. Neither department has arrested anyone, nor has either department filed charges or named any person of interest in Koecher's disappearance. The private investigators suspect Koecher is deceased and buried in the Las Vegas Valley. However small, the neighbor hopes that short conversation may help locate Koecher. I'm prepared to help the family however I can put the closure on this story, the neighbor said. Tips can be submitted anonymously through Crime Stoppers by calling 702-385-555 or at crimestoppersofnv.com, report a crime. Information can also be sent via text by sending crime NV and then your message to crimes 274637. Crime Stoppers offers a reward for information that leads to an arrest. So this is the article from this news station back in 2022. And so this is where his car was found. This is Evening Light Street and Savannah Springs Avenue. And they believe he went missing somewhere on this street. Somebody in one of these houses possibly involved in his disappearance. This report is from 2024, so just December of last year, which was the 15-year anniversary of his disappearance. December 2024, they did this article. And it says, it's been 15 years since Stephen Koecher vanished without a trace in a Henderson neighborhood, leaving his family in a state of perpetual uncertainty. The 30-year-old Utah resident was last seen on December 13, 2009, captured in grainy surveillance footage in Sun City Anthem. His car was found abandoned on a cul-de-sac with Christmas presents still in the back seat. Dallin Koecher, Stephen's brother, recalled the moment he learned of his brother's disappearance. Out of the blue, I get a phone call from my sister saying, "Hey, have you heard from Stephen?" He said. Despite the passage of time, Dallin admitted, "Would we like to know all the answers? Absolutely." And that's his brother Dallin right there. It says private investigators Jim Burke and Kevin Wyatt have been working the case pro bono, determined to find answers for the Koecher family. Burke noted his actions are a little bit unsure. We still don't know why, but he was definitely doing something for somebody else. Wyatt suggested that Stephen may have become entangled in something dangerous. During that time, the economy wasn't great. He was leaning on church and trying to find jobs. But he really didn't want to take money from the family. He wanted to make it on his own, Wyatt said. So we really think he might have got hooked up in something that may not have been in his best interest. Wyatt also mentioned the possibility of a drug cartel's involvement and revealed that new information has been shared with Henderson police, though he could not disclose details publicly. Despite the lack of a crime scene or physical evidence, investigators believe the key to solving the mystery lies within the Henderson neighborhood. So do I agree with that. I think definitely whatever happened to him happened in that neighborhood, and that unfortunately the police just weren't able to figure that out way back then around the time he went missing. However, with residents having moved or passed away over the years, the trail has grown cold. Dallin Koecher expressed a somber acceptance of the situation. I think out of every tragedy comes a great blessing, and the blessing is for us that remain we are closer together, he said, acknowledging the likelihood that Stephen is no longer alive. I think the secondary tragedy is as the years move on, the memories start to get dimmer. Henderson police continue to treat this as an active missing person investigation. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 702-385-5555. If you would like Denise Roach to investigate an unsolved case, oh, so that's just about their. This is from Channel 3 News. All right, so that's the latest update I can find in the case, is that on his 15-year anniversary in December 2024, that apparently there are new leads, but they're not sharing them with the public. And as of right now, in August of 2025, this case is still unsolved, and he is still missing. They have not found his body, and they don't know what happened to him or who did anything to him. This is Google Maps showing the area that he went missing from. This is Savannah Springs Avenue, and this is Evening Lights Street. His car was parked down here in this circle area, this cul-de-sac area. And apparently, from the video surveillance camera, they know that he turned left and walked down this street right here. And then he just disappears forever. As you can see, it's a very heavily populated area as far as many, many homes here. Just houses all around. But apparently the private investigators think that he went somewhere definitely here, that maybe it's one of these houses involved. But who knows how far over. Like if somebody requested, they say, oh, don't park in our driveway, park down in the circle and then walk up to our home because our driveway is full, or we don't want you blocking in a certain car on our driveway or something like that, because they didn't want, like, the people involved in his disappearance did not want his car to be in their driveway, obviously, if he was a victim of crime. So maybe I told, okay, park your car down here in this circle and then just go left and then walk to our home. But where was his home? Was it on Evening? I mean, what home did he end up at? Was it on Evening Light Street or Portsmouth Creek Avenue? Did he have to go farther down here? I mean, exactly how far did he walk? I would say it's probably Evening Light Street somewhere, but it could have been, maybe somebody convinced him, oh, you need to park down here, but walk even further than that. It could be Laurel Heights Lane, and maybe he thought that it would be quicker to walk this way than to just go straight here or something. But I'm thinking that he met up with somebody at a home on Evening Light Street. if not this street, then maybe Portsmouth Creek Avenue. Just less maybe because he's not familiar with the area. And this was 2009. I don't know. No, I doubt he had GPS. That he could have been convinced to park down here and then walk a lot further because he doesn't know the area. Like he wouldn't know to ask, well, why can't I just park at the Marion Center Court area where there's homes here? So maybe they told him to park here because there's no homes here. Nobody will care. You park on this side where there isn't a home yet, and nobody will care. People do that. It's no big deal. I think what he did that day was purposeful, and I don't think it was by his own design. I think somebody told him what to do that day. Like somebody told him to park down there and then walk to our home. And now it's that neighbor who said he came to his door, but he didn't make it to the door in time. And then when he opened the door, he was across the street and heard him say, "I need money." Was he, if his statements are accurate, did he mishear him? Or is he lying? Was he a witness like right after this happened? Or did he come forward years later? Because everybody knows that, it's a recession going on, and that in this case that Stephen Koecher was having financial problems. Is that why Stephen said that? Or did Stephen actually say that? And maybe the man just didn't hear the rest of what he said. Maybe he was just trying to say, "Hey, I need money. I came here for work. I'm sorry I came to the wrong house." But maybe the man didn't hear him say all that. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand the newspaper, or excuse me, the TV station's article about that. It just seems like the report is missing a few details. But let's say, okay, Stephen turned down left here and then came to one of these houses. He rang the bell. Nobody came. So then he walks off, and then the man comes to the door, and then Stephen says, "I need money." That's just very odd. Then he went across the street where the sidewalk wasn't. So I guess he'd been on this side, because I don't think there's a sidewalk here. I think the sidewalk is on this side of Evening Light Street. So that's just a very odd thing that I haven't heard before about this case until today when I was researching this case. So that's just very odd. Why was he at that house of the neighbor who said that he said he needed money? And was that neighbor involved, or he's just totally innocent and that's just what happened? So that's a weird part. Another weird thing about this case. I'm on a YouTube channel called Aaron Stoner, and I don't know why he hasn't posted in a long time, because his channel is actually very excellent. Aaron Stoner is a true crime analyst. He really goes in depth about these cases. He has all kinds of interesting videos. I think he stopped posting. He was working on like a documentary about something, and it was going to be called Tomorrow Long Gone, but then I think he stopped working or something didn't work out. But his videos are excellent, and he has a whole playlist of Stephen Koecher's case. So I recommend this channel to anybody who really wants to get down into the details about certain cases. I think he only has like about 52 videos, but they're quality videos from the ones I've seen. I first discovered his channel a few years back, and I don't know why he doesn't post more, if he's got other things going on in his life, or he decided to do something else, or he's still working on the documentary he was working on, or just I don't know why he stopped posting, but it's really very good at true crime analyzing cases and stuff, and very detailed. So he has 15 videos about this case, and I recommend, if you're interested in this case, to come to this channel. And if you're not interested in this case, but you want to see other cases, he also has other videos of other high-profile cases that you might be interested in. But he posted a video of the surveillance footage. So I'm going to see if I can get to it after this commercial. Always got to be a commercial. But in this video, he like zooms in and up closes and everything. I'm going to turn off the volume, but there's no sound in the actual surveillance video anyway. So, but okay, this is Savannah Springs Avenue view normal speed. So he does it in different speeds, and it just shows the same thing but at different speeds. But in case you've forgotten this footage, this is the footage of the last known sighting of Stephen, where he's walking up down that street. But like his family says and other people say, he looks like he has a purpose, like he knows where he's going, that he's there to do something. But we don't know what he's there to do or which house he was going to. Was he going to meet up with somebody and get in a vehicle and they're going to travel somewhere else? Was he meeting up with somebody to possibly see if they had a room for him to rent because he thought it would be cheaper than where he was, and he wanted, because he knew he was 3 months behind on his rent and he needed to get out of there, and his landlord wouldn't allow him to stay there much longer without paying the back rent? Was he there for a job? Did somebody lure him there? So there he goes. Again, this is at 25% speed. But this Aaron Stoner, he does very good at analyzing true crime cases. He gets very detailed. He's looked at, police reports and everything about this case. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in this case, to watch Aaron Stoner's videos on this case. See, this is 10% speed. It's just, he's zooming in. And Stephen's coming from the right. And he's on the side now without the sidewalk. The sidewalk is across the street. So there he goes. He looks like he has a purpose, but what that purpose is, nobody knows. Why he's going to be there, who he's going to meet up with, what's he going to be doing, or what does he think he's going to be doing, and what all went wrong that day. I'm thinking, he found the house that he needed to be at and went to the door, and then once he was in the house, he was just at the mercy of whoever lured him to that house for whatever purpose. Was it maybe they lured him there trying to get him to do like some drug running or something sinister, and he wouldn't have no part of it. He wanted to leave, but then he already knew who they were, so they were afraid that he would turn them in for drug dealing or selling or transporting. So they killed him. Was there a fight in the home? Was the home with the holes in the wall the home where he, and I guess the police, I hope they did anyway, try to do forensic tests on the home around there, hopefully, to get some evidence. This is a very up close of Stephen right here. And he's carrying a portfolio or some kind of folder or something. So I highly recommend this channel, this Aaron Stoner channel. This is a video, his first video in the playlist. I'm going to read some of the comments. It says, "This is the best investigation of this case I've ever seen." And this was posted 2 years ago, the comment, and this video was posted 4 years ago. But you can see what I'm saying, that a lot of people, like I do, like his videos because they're so in-depth, and he actually investigates cases and analyzes surveillance footage and stuff like that. And this comment says, "I'm another person who's here from the Stephanie Harlow. She was right. Your coverage of this case is really fantastic." Let's see. "Not here from Stephanie Harlow. I got here by exploring your investigation into Missy Beavers. This is such an underrated channel. Love from New Hampshire." This comment says, "Great video and breakdown. I like to watch that chapter with Mike, and your work is just as enjoyable. Keep up the great work." And then this one, "Stephanie Harlow recommended you, and I can see why. I am extremely impressed with the amount of detail in the cases you cover. I'm now a new fan." So as you can see, I'm not the only one who likes this channel. So if you're interested in true crime and like really want to go in depth, this guy's excellent at it. I wish he would come back to YouTube and post some more videos about true crime. This case is that I definitely think foul play was involved, and I definitely think he's deceased. I think something happened to him on the day of his disappearance or shortly thereafter, if not on the day that he disappeared on the 13th of December 2009. I think he went there for a purpose, a legitimate purpose in his mind, but somebody else had a nefarious purpose. Like I said, maybe he was there for a legitimate job, and that's why he had like a folder or portfolio or something with him. And then whoever's home he went to, they had nefarious purposes. And when Stephen didn't want to go along with them or cooperate, they killed him because he could be a witness or tell on them. Or even worse, that some kind of predator or serial killer, like just a serial killer, lured him to a home just for a thrill kill or something. Or a sexual predator, a homosexual predator that just, lures me in so that he can, abuse them and kill them or something. So in my mind, it's definitely a foul play. I just don't know for what purpose, or, I don't know what Stephen thought he was going there for. But I assume it's for employment or a different place to live. And I don't know who lured him there, and if it was just one person or multiple people. Like his roommate that he's currently living with apparently has some shady past. And if you watch Aaron Stoner's video, you'll know what I'm talking about. Apparently, Stephen Koecher's roommate had some shady things going on about him. Apparently, their landlord accused him of stealing or something. And if you watch Aaron Stoner's video, he has all the details from the police reports and such. So, was it somebody Stephen knew who he thought he could trust that he couldn't trust? And somebody set him up to go there to be killed. Maybe he was just killed just to be killed because somebody didn't want to have to deal with him anymore, like his roommate, or I don't know, somebody from his church. Just somebody just wanted him dead for whatever reasons that we can't think of. Like maybe it's not like some random stranger just lured him there to murder him for some weird purpose. Maybe somebody he knows wanted to do him in for whatever reason. Somebody's mad at him, somebody's jealous of him, somebody just a nut he met who he thought he could trust, and that person actually turned out to be a bad guy, and for some purpose they wanted him dead, so they lured him somewhere knowing that if they could hide his body they would never get caught, because obviously if they thought that, they were correct, because this happened in 2009 and it's still to this day unsolved. In December of this year it will be 16 years. So that is a long time for somebody to be missing, but also a long time for somebody who committed a crime to be able to get away with that crime. Doesn't seem promising if they don't have any DNA evidence from a home where they can prove that Stephen was at, which as far as I know, they have nothing like that. And if they can't find his body and possibly find some DNA on clothing or something like that, this case will never be solved because it's been 16 years. So unless somebody talks, whoever did something to him will get away with it. That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't see this case as ever being solved, but I hope it is. And I want people to keep Stephen's face and case out there in the public so people won't forget about it, because there could be somebody out there who knows something, but they don't know that they have information that people need to help solve this case. But if they see his name and face out there, they'll remember something from long ago or something. Or maybe their girlfriend or an acquaintance of somebody who did do Stephen in, and they figured it out that he had something to do with it or something, and they just need to come forward. But unless somebody talks or they find a body, I don't see this case as being solved, which is so tragic to think that one day you're fine and you're just doing something in what looks like a regular middle class neighborhood, walking along the street to meet somebody at a home somewhere, and then something really bad ends up happening to you. Because just, we can only speculate what happened to him, but I feel that he's dead, and I feel that he definitely met with foul play. I don't believe he just walked off, like he just parked his car down here and just walked off into the desert because things weren't going right. I don't believe he had suicidal intentions at all. I think he was just trying to keep doing things to help improve his life and to, reach his goals and to get a good job. But the economy was bad back then. I remember the recession. I remember you go on job websites online. Like I looked for jobs in Georgia online and there would be no listings, no jobs to be had. So it was a tight job market. So he was doing what he could to make his own money, and he wanted to do it on his own. He didn't want his parents' help. So I obviously now it would have been much better if he just let his parents help him and pay his back rent and just move on from there, because he wasn't the only one struggling back then. It was a recession, and should have just allowed his family to just go ahead and help him, and he could pay them back later. But maybe he didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel and think things would get better financially, so he didn't want to take money from his family. He wanted to keep trying to get caught up himself. And apparently he ended up here on Evening Light Street, and something horrible happened to him. If you watch Aaron Stoner's videos, he has a lot of information on people who could be suspects who lived in this neighborhood, who have actually been interviewed either by him or police or private investigators. He has like police reports and everything. So if you really want to know all the details of this case, I recommend his channel. I mean, he did an excellent job of getting information on this case and, making videos about it. But my best theory that I can come up with on this case, remember, my opinions and theories mean nothing. I'm not in law enforcement, or I don't work in the justice system. I'm just trying to think logically and common sense what could have happened to this young man. I will say it's so unfortunate that more homes in the area didn't have surveillance cameras. But this was 2009, and I guess Ring doorbell and all these other cameras weren't as common back then, because whoever did something to him, if somebody did do something to him, he didn't walk off on his own, they got very, very lucky, because nobody knows what house he actually went to. People have speculations, but people don't know what house he actually walked to. Did he go up to a front door, or did he go around to a back door? Did somebody tell him to come around to the back door or something? Nobody knows what happened to him because the total lack of surveillance cameras at that time. So the only video surveillance we have of this case is what I showed you, that, is hard to see. It's grainy, but at least, his parents identified him in it. So, we're obviously pretty sure, the police and his family are sure that it's him. So we know that Stephen was there, that somebody else didn't park his car and then walk away. Because if somebody else parked his car down here, it could mean that he met with foul play before he ever got here. And then somebody parked his car here and then walked, like if they lived in this area, they walked to their home or they walked wherever to meet up with another car to leave this area or something. But according to everything I've ever heard and read about this case, his family and police do believe the surveillance video is Stephen Koecher. So we know he was there, and he was the one who parked his car there. and walked up here and went left onto Evening Light Street and just disappeared. But his disappearance wasn't known until several days later. I think it was December 17th, and he went missing on the 13th. So several days later that a police report was made that he was missing. So that's enough time to hide a body, to hide evidence, to clean up evidence and stuff. So I think the police had no clue, and I think they still have no clue as to actually what happened to him, what he was doing there, and actually who is the actual suspect, or who is an actual makes a good suspect. They have a lot of, I'm sure they have a lot of people who they think probably are suspects, but they've never named a suspect to my knowledge. Just a lot of shady people living in this area, and a lot of shady things happened on this day that he went missing. And I believe the day he went missing was a Sunday, by the way, December 13th, 2009. Third website. I don't know if it's a TV show Disappeared or just some other website called Disappeared. But it says his description, and in their description here, it says he was 5 foot 11 inches tall. But like I said earlier, another website said he was 5 foot 8, so that's like a 3-inch discrepancy. I don't know exactly how tall he was or why different websites show different heights, but this website says 5'11" and 180 pounds. He has a surgical scar behind each ear and a series of birthmarks on his abdomen forming a shape similar to a Nike swoosh. He was last seen wearing a hooded sweatshirt, a white dress shirt, blue jeans or darker pants, and white sneakers. And this is his picture right here. So what are your theories on this case? I have no idea why he went there or what exactly happened. I do think it's foul play. So I don't think he just went there to park his car and then walk off into the desert. And we know his cell phone was used later. And that's another thing. Like, did he get in somebody else's car and they drive somewhere together? Maybe they told him park at the end of this circle and then come get my car and we'll go somewhere together. Did somebody lure him, maybe not into a home, but into a vehicle, and then they drove off with him and his cell phone? And was it Stephen who used his cell phone, or was it somebody else? And why would he leave his frozen food in his vehicle if he planned to come back to it? Why even bother buying the food or having it in your car? So I'm wondering if he's either going somewhere for employment purposes or going somewhere for housing reasons. Like he wanted to live somewhere, like he's going to rent a room somewhere, and that's why he was carrying either a folder or portfolio or something. Maybe it wasn't like his work history or whatever. Maybe he was carrying something that had to do with his financial information or his, just information he would need to rent a room from somebody or something. I don't know. Maybe somebody lured him there to say, well, if you work for us and like clean the house, clean the pool or whatever, and you can stay here rent free until you get back on your feet, until you get a regular job, and you can start paying rent, but you won't have to pay rent until such time. Like, does somebody he know lure him to whoever did something to him? I mean, he definitely went there for a purpose, and people just don't disappear into thin air. Obviously, he went there for some reason, and if he didn't walk off on his own, and why would you park your car there? Like, did he have the frozen food to make people think that he was planning on coming back because he didn't want people to know that he purposely walked off to harm himself or something? And he just decided to leave his car there because he wanted his family to get it, because it's the only thing of value he had. So he thought he would leave it there. He wouldn't harm himself in the car. He wouldn't harm himself in his apartment. He didn't want nobody to have to go through the trauma of finding him. And then he went to the desert and offed himself. But what was he carrying with him? And he had his cell phone and wallet with him. Was he carrying a suicide note in a folder or something and it's going to go off into the desert, but he wanted to leave a suicide note in his wallet near his body so that people would know who he was, and he just hasn't been found yet? I don't think so. I don't think that's what happened. I think his body's hidden because he was murdered, and whoever murdered him hid his body somewhere, buried it, threw it in, I don't know, Lake Mead or some other body of water, put it in a barrel. I mean, who knows? The desert, there's a lot of places you can hide a human body. So, unfortunately, I don't think this case will ever be solved, but I hope it is. And I feel so bad for his family. And his father passed away. If you want to watch a good documentary on this case, I suggest the TV show Disappeared. If you can get that show on cable or streaming. Um, Several years back, I saw the show Disappeared, and they did his case, and just heartbreaking. His father was in that show, but then his father, after that, passed away. So his father, I don't know if it's the heartbreak of his son being missing, but his father passed away. But his father's in that TV show Disappeared, and his mother and other family members. So, it would be wonderful if he just walked away. Things were going so bad, and he just couldn't handle his financial situation and just walked away and decided to just be a homeless person somewhere, not have to worry about bills and trying to get ahead in life and trying to get a good job where he could afford to support himself. Maybe he's just embarrassed by his financial situation or overstressed by it and chose to walk off, and he's somewhere alive but just living as a street person or something. I don't think that's what's happened, but that would be great if he was still alive. But uh, from everything I've learned about this young man, there's no way in heck I think that he would do that to his family. So I don't think and plus he has religious beliefs that wouldn't allow him or make him want to commit suicide. I know a lot of so-called religious people commit suicide, but I don't think that's what happened in Stephen's case. I think he was just trying to, live his life and do it on his own. And he went to that neighborhood for a purpose and ended up being in some horrible situation that he couldn't get out of. But hopefully one day they'll find his body at least. If they can't find evidence of what happened to him or who harmed him or how he died, at least maybe they can find his bones somewhere. Guess, that's the best we can hope for, unless somebody talks or they're lucky enough to find some kind of DNA evidence if they ever found his body or from some house over there in the neighborhood where he went missing. Maybe they haven't tested something. Maybe there's evidence of blood residue somewhere that you can't see with the eye, but if they did like luminol tests or something, that they would find evidence that he was in somebody's house, and then they could interview somebody and get them to talk or something. I don't know. But so that's the best theory I can come up with, is that he met with foul play. Why or who, I have no idea. But so this is one of the most perplexing missing persons cases to me. And there are several. This case reminds me of just talking about the missing men cases. This case and the case of Jason Jokowski and the case of, was it Brian Schaefer from the bar in, I think, Ohio? Those are probably three of the most perplexing missing persons cases that I can think of. It's because I believe or think I know that foul play was involved in all three of these cases, but unless the police are just holding back, there's absolutely no evidence of who did something to them or exactly why somebody did something to him. I know in Brian Schaefer's case that his friend that he went out with is a suspect or was a suspect or was looked at and investigated, but that case still hasn't been solved. They haven't found his body, and they haven't solved the mystery of what happened to him. So Brian Schaefer from the bar in Ohio, Jason Jokowski, I think it was Nebraska, who just was walking to meet somebody to drive to work, and he just disappeared into thin air. And then, or maybe Jason was Wisconsin. I'll have to look that up, but So, and then Stephen Koecher. These two cases are just so perplexing to me. So, he was 30 years old when he went missing. He went missing on December 13th, 2009 in Henderson, Nevada. If you have any information on his case, please contact authorities.